Hey guys, Simcoder here, and today we're going to start working on uploading videos to Google buckets, Google storage buckets. So this will be our hardest lesson in the series, so don't worry about it. It is going to get easier from now on. We are going to spend a lot of time on this lesson. I can warn you about that right now. It isn't going to be like less than 40 minutes. It is going to be probably 1 hour or something. It's because we are going to do a lot of things. We are going to use a lot of technologies, a lot of packages. And yeah, but by the end of this lesson, we'll have everything structured out in a way where we'll be able to simply show videos to users in the future. So yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into it, and yeah, let's do it. So the first thing that we are going to do is to obviously start our Docker, and for that, remember, it is docker sudo docker compose up build. I'm going to start it up, and I'm going to leave it running in the background. Let me just check one thing. Yep. Right now, this is where we left off in the last lesson, and we are going to close everything because for now we are going to handle the front end. So we are going to create a new file, which we'll call upload.js, and like that. I'm going to move it in the user folder because, well, it is user specific. I'm going to call RCE. Again, remember, I'm using an extension for that, which is this one, ES7. It is a really cool one, so make sure you have it installed. And well, in this upload file, we'll have the form which will allow the user to upload videos. So let's start writing some code because this is going to take some time. And the first thing that we want to do is to create an input for the name. So like that. And yep, input, and the input will have a placeholder which is going to be called name. Then on change will change the value of the variable which we'll create in a second. So on change, and in here we'll say open arrow function. We don't need brackets in this. So set state name 2 points e.target.name. Okay, so this on change will just update the state of these components. Then the value, because remember we must add the value as well, will be this.state.name. And finally, we don't need anything else. I'm just going to add the class name to make it so that this input takes over the entire row, so the entire width of the parent div parent. Okay, isn't that? And we are done. So I'm actually going to remove this and make it a bit nicer. Okay, so now I'm actually going to stop with the div for a second. I'm going to create a constructor and place all of the variables that we'll use so that it doesn't confuse you any more than it should. So for the upload, we'll have a lot of variables. So let's start with saying this.state equals open curly brackets, and we'll have the name or title, whatever. We'll have a description. We could have tags, but I'm going to leave that for the redesign because I don't want to complicate it any further. We'll have a video, obviously. And finally, we'll have an image. And this image will be displayed as a placeholder for the video. Okay, so these are the variables that we must implement in the front end. So let's quickly double up on the inputs. and the second input will be a description. Just get that out of the way. So the value will be description, basically everything that we had been doing before. So now for the video, we'll have an input again, but this time it is a bit different because we'll have a type which will be equal to file. This will allow the user to pick files instead of just typing in names. So the value will be video. And in the on change, it is a bit different from what we are used to. It is going to be eTarget, then files 0. Because the user can be able to pick multiple files, and this is a check that we could do. But just make sure that the user only picks one file, we'll pick the first file that the user shows. So if the user picked multiple files, this will be an array. So we have to pick the first one, which is the position 0. Okay, now let's double that up. Placeholder in here is video, of course. And now for the image. It's basically the same thing. We just changed the name again. Okay, so that's basically it. Now we are just going to add a button for the user to finalize the upload process. So button, call it upload. The class name will be call MD12, again, occupying the entire row. Then on click, on click we want to obviously call a function which will handle the upload. So let's do that in a second. Handle upload. And I'm going to go up top and create that same function. Now that we have a function, we must obviously bind the function to this. Otherwise, we won't be able to access the state variables within that function. So handle upload, this dot, handle upload dot binds this. Okay, so now we can simply code on the handle upload, but let's check on the front end to see if everything is working fine. Login, and well, we don't have any way of reaching the upload page, so let's take care of that now. And again, pretty simple. All you have to do is come in here, double that up, and call upon the upload file and create a route for it, obviously. So let's come in here and upload. Okay, but right now we are only able to access the upload via the URL bar. So I'm going to go into the nav bar and add another link to upload. Okay, and now we have upload here. Let's click it, and there we go. You have the form. And I'm going to come into upload and just add the nav bar. And I don't have it imported. Let's come in here, import nav bar from. And the nav bar is one folder before, so 2 points, nav bar. So adding it in here, nav bar. Now going back, there we go. So we are able to choose files in both the inputs. We are able to type in the name, or better yet, we aren't. So let's just check why that is. And yeah, it was my bad. In here it is value, not name. And in here it is description. Okay, sorry about that. Now if you come back in here, we can see that we are able to type. So now we are finally able to handle the upload. And in here, I'm just going to make a check before typing any code, saying that if video, or better yet, if this.state.video equals to null, or this state image equals null, then we are not going to upload because there is not enough material to upload, and this is just an easy check to make sure that the user is using the application properly. Okay, now we are going to construct a form data. Let's use const for that and say data equals to new form data. So this data will contain the video and the image, and then the Axios is going to make a call to the backend, and it is going to handle all of the packages distribution to the backend. We don't need to worry about anything because obviously the video doesn't go in one big chunk. It goes in small little chunks, and Axios handles that for us. And I'm sure other packages that do basically the same. So files, this.state.video, and we are just going to append both the video and the image to this form data. Image, and we are going to come in here and say const description and name equals to this.state. This is just so that we don't have to write this.state.variable. We are able to access them like this. Okay, so now I'm going to let go of the verify user for the time being. I'm not going to care about that. I'm just going to upload the file and keep things really straightforward. So we are going to now make an Axios call. And we still don't have the endpoint ready, but we'll get it ready according to what we are going to do right now. So HTTP, and we're going to say 127.0.0.1, 6200, which is the port. We are going to say API video upload. This will be our endpoint responsible for uploading the video. One small thing, we could just upload the video straight to the bucket, but it makes that so that we don't have as much control over the video as we would if we sent to our server and then our server redirects it to the bucket. So that's the reason why I'm doing it this way. The other way would be easier, yes, but we would lose a lot of control, so I prefer to keep it this way. Okay, so now I'm going to create a config. Or better yet, we could just add parameters. So params, just as we did for the verify user, and we'll have the description in here and the name, because when we send the upload, we'll send everything. And we will also need the user, obviously, so that we know who uploaded the video. And for that, we'll need Firebase. So I'm going to come in here and say import Firebase from Firebase. So Firebase.auth. Let me just make this a bit easier to see. Firebase.auth.current user. Okay, so this will handle creating the user object, or getting it, better yet. We'll say then results. We'll console log the results. I'm not going to handle like a progress bar. This is just to cut on time because, as I've said, this lesson will get quite long. So I'm not going to make it pretty because right now it isn't important. I just want this to work. Okay, so now we are making a request, but this request is not going to go anywhere. Obviously, we don't have the endpoint ready, and I believe we are now ready to jump into the backend. So I'm going to close this, come in here, routes, and we'll need the functions. But for now, let's create just a route for this. So I'm going to double up on the user verify. And in here, let's check what we called it, API video upload. Okay, so let's do that, API video upload. And what data did we get from it? We get the description, the name, and the user. The videos and the image we'll handle later, because we'll have to use a package for that. So description, name, and user. And now we don't want the user func, we want the video func. So we can simply call it right now. And the function that will handle this will be called save. And it won't be called create, because that will be a different function which we'll use in a second. So for now, description and user are the ones that we created. So that's it. For now, we are going to change, we are going to create the video func, obviously. So let's come in here, video.js. And it's going to be pretty much similar to the user.js, so I'm going to actually copy it and remove the contents of it. So remove this, remove this, remove this, remove this, and yeah, remove everything. But we are going to obviously create a video a model, so we can handle that right now, actually. So I'm going to come in here, new file, video.js. And this video.js will use a schema like we did in the user file. So I'm going to quickly copy and paste it here. Say video schema. And video. Okay, so what are the strings or parameters that the video will contain? It will contain the name, primarily. And yeah, I can keep it simple. Let's just add the default one. It will have a description. Then it will have a video. Type string, and the video will be a video URL from the Google Storage Cloud, and it will have an image. So I'm going to leave it at that. This is simple enough. We'll change this in a second, but it's just so that we know what we are handling with. Okay, and now we have the video, we have our route, which has the save function, and that save function will be created right now. Let me just check one thing. Okay, and let's come in here, save, 2 points, parentheses, and it will be description, files, and this variable is new to you, but it will be added later, name, and that's it, and user, obviously, but the user can be in the end of it. Okay, then we'll add a promise, resolve reject, and there we go. Now we have our save function, and these files are here because we are not going to do this save function right away. This is not the function that will be called first, for that because we are going to save the videos first to the buckets, and only then are we going to save the video in our backend, the video or the video parameters. So for this, we are going to use Molter. Molter is a middleware which will allow us to redirect the video and image packages to our backend and then send them to the Google Cloud Storage. It is a really cool package. You should check it out and read more about it. But yeah, for the time being, just think of it as a middleware for the video. We are going to add that package up top, and we also need to add the video func. So let's do it right now. Okay, and Molter is const Molter equals to require motor. And don't worry, this should be installed in your system because I left all of the packages that are needed so that we didn't need to be always taking down our Docker, doing npm install, and then putting our Docker back up. So I thought this was the best way of doing that. Then we'll have another variable called upload, which will be motor, and then array files. I'll explain this part in a second. Let's just write this first. Files. Okay. So as you can remember from our upload file in the front end, we appended the video and the image, but we added these files. This parameter is the name that will be associated with the object that we are appending. And that name is the one that we are going to use in Molter. So Molter will receive a data, which and he'll try to check for the name. And if the name is files, then this upload variable will be handling all of the files that have the name files. And obviously it is going to be an array because we have both a video and an image. If you just have one file, then you wouldn't need array, then you would write in a different way. But for now, it is array, okay? So now you might say, well, where do we add that, that function or whatever, this variable? And it is added right inside post. So we just say post, upload, post and parenthesis upload, and I'm going to close this up. Then we say video func dot upload and comma rec res, and we don't need the next, so I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, so these uploads, video upload will create in a second, and the upload variable will handle just chucking all of the chunks into our upload function, which will then give it to the Google storage buckets. Okay, now we'll need the files in the save function, as I said before, and these files is a function which will be in the rec.query, so in the rec.files, and so because of that we can simply say rec.files, and it will contain all of the information related to the files, like name, timestamp, whatever, things like that. And obviously, actually duration it won't have, but it will have the information needed for us to handle it. So when we reach this part, the files have been uploaded to the Google storage bucket. That's one important thing to keep in mind. Okay, so now going to videos.js, we have the save file function, which we aren't going to write anything in yet. And then we'll have the upload function. For this, I'm going to double that up, add a comma at the end so that we can have multiple functions, and say upload. Okay, then in here, the parameters that it takes are rec, res, and next. And as you can see, they are pretty similar to the ones that our routes take. And that's because it is going to take the chunks directly from the request. We are not going to have a promise at this time because we'll have multiple promises. And because of that, it isn't useful for us to have that promise there. Okay. I'm going to remove the parentheses from here and say const user equals to rec.query. And this will give us access to the user and most importantly, the user ID. Okay, and we are going to again parse that like we did for the verify accounts. User JSON equals to JSON.parse user. Okay, and now we are just going to make a check. Again, we did this in the front end, but it is always good to do both in the front end and the back end. So let's do rec files dot length equals to 0. If the length is equal to 0, then we'll say res dot send no files uploaded. And because we are handling directly with the variables rec, res, and ext, we are able to simply send from here to the front end. Okay, so now the way that we are going to, and we must add return, I was forgetting about that. So now in order to, we must give a name to the file. And we are not going to give a name to the file like the file is called. That's not good programming logic and rules. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to change the name of the files to the timestamp of the server. This way I can ensure that each file is going to be named differently because all files are uploaded at different times. But you may say, well, if two users upload at the same time, then it is possible for the timestamps to be the same, and it is. However, we are not going to store them in the same folder within our bucket. We are going to store them in different folders for one folder for each user. So it is impossible for users to collide with each other per se, and it is impossible for the same user to collide with himself. So this way we can ensure that each file will be given a unique name for the folder that it is in. So let's say now const timestamp equals to new date dot get time. This will give us the timestamp of the server. So now we'll have multiple promises, as I've said, and we'll have multiple promises because we have two files. So let's create an array of promises. And I'm sorry about that. Okay. And we'll have rec.files.forEach image index, image, or better yet file index, because we can have either a file or a video, open curly brackets, and there we go. Now inside here we'll have a promise. So promise equals to new promise resolve reject, and there we go. We have the promise for each file that we have. So now we must push the promise to our promises array. So promises.push promise. Okay, and then whenever all of the promises have been resolved, we are able to say promise.all promises. Then you don't need anything in there. Open arrow function and say promises. We can clear up promises and say next. This next will push the request through, and it will be able to finally go to the save function where we'll actually store the video information within our database. And we can say catch next also, and there we go. Now within this part we'll handle the upload process to our bucket for each file. Okay, we have everything ready to do that. Now we can go into our and there is an access call that's not defined. I'll handle that after. So going into Google Cloud's console, I have my project open, YouTube clone, and as you can see, we have a lot of information here. You're not going to care about anything, instead just storage, because as you can see, there is a lot of APIs and services that Google offers. And I'm going to go into storage. Within storage, we have to enable billing in order to complete this. So a button should appear like this, and you'll have to enable billing. Let's say this. Let me check if this billing account is valid. It isn't. Okay, so I'm going to quickly set up billing, and I'll be back when it is done.
Later.
Okay, so there we go. I have billing enabled, and now I can simply create buckets. This will create a bucket for me, and I'll say YouTube buckets. It is taken, so YouTube clone up buckets. Let's try that. Okay, it is good. Then you are asked a series of questions. I'm going to leave it at the default one. Standards, yep, standards. And I'm going to choose fine grained because we are going to allow some files to be accessed no matter what. And videos, for example, we are going to generate a signed URL for them. So fine grained is the better way of doing it. And Google managed key or customer managed key. I'm going to add Google managed key, obviously. Okay, and that's it, create. So you can leave everything at default. I believe that should be right fine without any problems. And there we go, we have our buckets. So if you come in here, you are able to upload folder, and this works just like a drive, a Google Drive. You are able to upload folders, upload files, but you are able to control them via code, which is really cool and exactly what we need. Okay, so we are now ready to start coding. So I'm going to go back into our project, and in here I'm going to import some stuff which will be needed in order to control our Google storage account. So const open curly brackets storage equals to require at Google Cloud /storage. And this is what we are going to use in order to actually upload our files. Okay, so now we must do some configuration, and the first of all is const storage equals to new storage. The first storage, the name of the variable is not capitalized, and the second is. Be careful about that. We'll have our project ID, which will be clouds buckets. This will be a variable which will name up top. So I'm going to come in here and create a new variable with that. Const cloud buckets equals to, and this time go into your buckets and see what you called it. So in my case, I called it YouTube clone buckets. So that's what I'm going to name it, and that is the name of my bucket. Then we'll have the key file name, and this will be basically a service account. However, it must be in the JSON form, and I tried to use the one that we have in the config, but I wasn't able to. So coming into config, I'm going to grab our service account, create a new file, and call it storage config.json. Paste it inside here, remove the service account parts, and just leave it like this. That way you won't have any problems whatsoever. So now I can go back to the video func and simply add the path to that file. And in this case, I'll say app config /config.json. Okay, and this should be enough in order to tell that to the Google Cloud Storage that this is really you and that you have permissions to use the storage at will. Okay, then we'll create a new variable, and this will be the last one, called buckets, which will give it the name of storage.buckets, and now we'll pass along the cloud buckets. Okay, and now we have full access to our storage and we can do with it whatever we want. So going back into our promise that we have here in the upload function, we are now finally able to stream our data to the Google Cloud storage that we just created. Okay, so the first thing that we'll need is going to be the type of the file. So type equals to, and now in order to get the file type, it is really simple. All you have to do is say file dot MIME type, and this will be JPEG, MP4, whatever. It is a big string. And then we'll have to get the last part, which is the part that we actually want. And because of that, we have to do a substring, which will remove part of the original string. So substring 0, file.mime type, index of /, because the MIME type contains, like, I believe it is video / MP4 or image / JPEG. And because of this, we must just get the part that we are interested in, which is if it is image or video. Otherwise, we would have a lot of video types to go through. So this way it is much easier. The next part that we want is to build a name. And the name in this case, and I'm going to do a backwards sign. I don't know how these are called, backwards quotes, something like that. And we are going to have, first of all, the user JSON .uid. This will be the directory where the video will be. So it will be the user ID, as I've said in the earlier. Then timestamp, and finally we'll have the type. So this will be the final name of the file within our bucket. So timestamp and then type. That's it. Yep. Then we'll have the name of the file, which will be the file name, where yet, which will be buckets dot file, and within parentheses name. This is the file name within the buckets. So yep, this is where we are going to point our files to, or the file that we are currently iterating through. Okay, as easy as that. And we are now finally able to create a stream which will send the chunks to the Google storage buckets. So const stream equals to file.create write stream. And now we'll have the metadata of the file, and the metadata in this case is just the file MIME type, so that the Google Storage Cloud can know what we are dealing with. So metadata contents type 2 points image variate file MIME type, and that's it. Okay, so this is our stream with the file that we are iterating through. And with stream, we can get a multitude of listeners. On ends, on error, and on create, I believe, also exists. But let's first do the stream dot on error. So let's say error, open arrow function, and now we will have to handle an error in case something goes wrong while we are writing our file to the Google Storage Cloud. And in this case, we'll go to rec.files index .cloud storage error equals to error. And we are going to obviously reject this promise because we are not able to continue if there is an error in the upload process for either the video or the image. Then I'm going to double this up, because now we'll have an on finish. On finish, we can delete this, and on finish we'll try to make the file public for the image, because our image for the videos will be public, but the videos won't be public, so you won't be able to access the video even if you have the URL for the bucket's video position. Okay, and I'll show you that in a second, but for now I'll say rec.files index.cloud storage object, and nope, I made an error. The dot is supposed to be outside. Cloud storage object will be the name. So this way we'll know the name of the Google's cloud storage when we are saving the object, the video object in our database. Okay, and then we say if type equals to image, then we want to make the file public, so that we don't have to generate a signed URL anytime the user goes to the home page. So await file make public. Let's add the wait. We could also use a then in here, but it doesn't really matter. This is a really fast process, so let's leave it at that. And then we'll say rec.files index.cloud storage public URL. So this will be the, in the case of the image, we'll save the public URL, which will be as easy as saying, let me just open the backwards quotes and say https storage.googleapis.com / curly brackets cloud buckets and name. This is why you have to be careful when deciding if a file is public or not, because if it is public, then you'll be able to access it knowing the cloud bucket and the name. So it is widely accessible, and people can abuse this and enlarge your accounts, billing accounts, by a lot if they are always pulling resources from there. So in this case, it will be resolved just like that. And let's just add a catch in case something goes wrong, and this should be inside the try and the catch. So let's do that right now. Because of the weight that we have there, it must be like this. So catch error reject error. There you go. Now the saving part is done, I believe. I don't believe we made any mistake in here. Let me check. File. Oh, I made one mistake. Better yet. So in here it is file name. And I believe that is all. And in here it is file name make public. Because obviously we weren't pointing to the buckets. We are just pointing to the file itself. So I'm sorry about that. In here it is file name. And I can even change this to buckets file name. That's better because it is more easily understandable. So bucket file name and make public and create the right stream to the bucket that we created in here. Okay, so now we are able to actually start saving the object. And if you can come into routes, we are doing this after the upload process has promised has resolved every single promise. So in the save process, in the save function, it is pretty straightforward. All you have to do is to create an object of the type video model. So for that, we can say const video object, or you can say my video. I always prefer to do it that way. My video equals to new video, and let's say what I called it. Yep, the model is video. Open parentheses, and now we can just place everything inside it. So mvideo.name equals to name. Then we have the mvideo.description equals to description. Then we'll get the video and the image. And one of the reasons why up top we added these parameters to the files, the name and the cloud storage object and the cloud storage public URL, is so that we can access them in here. So in the case of the cloud storage public URL, it is going to be for the image. So let's say image equals to files 1. Remember, in the upload, the image is in the second position, or the first index, the index 1, dot cloud storage public URL. And for the video, it is going to be basically the same, but slightly different. So video, it's going to be 0, and instead of cloud storage public URL, it's going to be cloud storage object. This way, we can make sure that everything is as it should be. Now I remembered one thing. We'll also need the user ID or the creator of the video saved. So for that, I'm going to close that up. I'm going to go into the model of the video. And now we want to add the user to the video schema object. And we do that by coming in here, and I'm going to call it creator. And in this case, the type won't be string for the ID. It will be a specific type, which is mongoose.schema.types.object ID. And then we point to the ref of the user schema. This way, we are able to get the full creator object, user object, and not having to pull the video schema and then searching for the creator ID within the user schema. So this way, by pulling the video schema that we want, we'll have the creator object right away with the name, email, and everything that comes with it. So going into video.js, I'm going to say video.creator equals to user, and again we must parse this user, so I'm going to come in here and grab the JSON parse user.uid. Now all that's left is just to save the object, and this is obviously really simple. All you have to do is save .then result, open arrow function, and say resolve results. Also do a catch. Always do the catch, don't forget that. Otherwise your server will crash really fast if something goes wrong. Reject error. Okay, so that's it, and in here it is user JSON. Yep, I got that wrong. Okay, so this is it. Now we are not able to display the videos, and I'm going to leave that to the next lesson, but I'm going to quickly test it out and see if everything goes smoothly. Okay, so I made a couple of mistakes that we must fix. The first one is in the front end. So in the form, I just had this.state.video, obviously this is going to give out an error because what we want is the file name. So just add file name and file name to the image and it should be good. Then the second error was that I forgot to import Axios. This was an error that we already knew about, so it was kind of easy to debug. And when it comes to the front end, we are done. Now going to the backend, I forgot to end the stream, and this is made below the stream on finish. You must add the stream.end within parentheses file.buffer. This will end the stream, and this is needed in order for the stream on finish to be called. Okay. One other thing that you should do is to reload the Docker. So do Control-C or take it down somehow, and then do the build again. This is because we added a new file, which is the storage underscore config.json, and it is not in your Docker yet if you haven't reloaded it. So you must reload it in order for the storage.config underscore config.json to be copied into your Docker. And that's it. Now coming into the project itself, let me just come in here. You'll see that there's an error when I upload the video, which is this one. Invalid grant, invalid JWT, token must be short-lived, whatever. If this happens to you, this is because your server isn't synchronized with the NTP. NTP is a time protocol that Google uses and most servers use. And in order to update your PC or server, wherever, to the NTP protocol, all you have to do is to come into this link and find this line. I'm going to drop the link down below so that you are able to check it really quickly and without any problem. So go ahead and see it. I'm going to take my Docker down, do sudo NTP date, and my date should change. Let's do this. Give it some time because it takes some time to synchronize the clock. And after it has done synchronizing, you can see from the bottom of my screen, I had 18:40 p.m. Or 6:40 p.m. and now we have 5:40 p.m. So the date of our system has changed. Now I'm able to do the builds of the Docker, and let's just wait for it to build, and I'll be right back.
2 hours later.
Okay, so the Docker is now running, and I noticed one small mistake while it was building. This next should have two parentheses. It was like this. You just have to add the parentheses. This is in the upload function at the end when we promise all promises. Don't forget to add the parentheses. Okay, I'm going to save it, and I've added a console log in the save function so that we see the video object at the end. Okay, coming back in here, I'm going to upload. Okay, and now the video object appears in here. We have an image and we have the video with the object of the video. Okay, so now if you go back to the bucket and reload, we expect the ID of the user to appear like this in a folder, then another folder with the current timestamp of the server, which this seems fine. And then we expect the image and the video. If you go to the image, we see the image. And if you go to the video, we see the video. And this is just a early recording of mine while testing things. So yeah, it is working. And now if you come in here, we are able to view the image directly because it is public. But we are not able to do the same with the video. So let's try to do that. And we can do that quite easily by copying the link. And the link should be just video, because remember that's the name of the file. But if you come in here, we get access denied. So in the next lesson, we'll create a generate URL, sign URL function, which will allow us to finally access that file, and because it is only useful to us if you can access it, obviously. So that's it. This was quite a lengthy lesson. If you have any problems with it, please let me know, and let me just go into our GitHub. The way I'm structuring it, in each lesson, it will have the commit within the brackets. So the 0 lesson, which was the initial commit. Then we have the lesson 1, which is the login system. Then the lesson 2, which is the token validation, and so on and so forth. So if you have any problems from lesson to another lesson, you can come into the commit list and check the code line by line and see where it went south. Either way, you have the forum, and I'll be always available to answer your questions. So don't worry about it. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope to see you again tomorrow, and ciao.